Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg in Las Vegas. Good morning, Hank.
Hi, Jim. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I had Buffalo over Syracuse last night. I was happy about that.
I had the under.
All right. There's a lot of ways to climb the mountain of money out there. There's lots of angles you can play. Good job. Got a lot of stuff going on this weekend. I think I asked you this before about horse racing. I don't think there's anything really big this weekend, is there?
No. There was a couple of good games last night in basketball, and a couple of teams won big. Gonzaga and Duke destroyed their competition. I think they both won by 50 points. Gonzaga was coming off a two-game losing streak, so they figured to take it out on somebody last night, so that was easy. And there's a good game tonight. I think Auburn is playing North Carolina State tonight. That'd be a good game to watch.
I'll bet it will be. Yeah. That's I think the first. That's the first game on the card. I think at the top of the. Let me pull it up. My computer's a little slow.
Yeah, I think they got North Carolina State as a slight favorite in the game, and it was actually where the ESPN is announcing that they're renewing the three announcers for next year. I'm surprised. Monday Night Football.
Ah, okay. You thought there'd be a change?
I thought there could be. There are a lot of people who are dissatisfied with those three guys. I know several people in the business who don't think that their telecast is very good. They think it's been poorly directed, poorly produced, and that the announcers are not up to the prime telecast for the NFL on Monday night. There are a lot of people who are not happy with the way Booger McFarlane is positioned, some of the things he says. I'll give you an example. I like Joe Tessitore a lot. You open up the telecast on Monday night saying that you're going to get to see the new wave of running backs in the NFL between Carolina and between the two teams. They were going to have the new wave, which is the fleet-footed running back, as opposed to the big, strong, pull you over type of running back that we've had in the past. Excuse me. Right away, I'm thinking, how about Henry with Tennessee? How about the Rams? How about Dallas? How about I'm just rattling off. How about the Giants? And I'm rattling off the names of guys who don't fit that description one by one. Have you been watching football? And they make statements like that. And I talked to a guy who has a bunch of Emmys who told me that he can't listen to the sound on the game. And I'll tell you something. The retired tight end's got a long way to go.
Yeah, I think they threw him into the limelight right off the bat. I mean, he's a great guy and everything. He was a great player, but maybe you have to start at a different level and then, climb your way into the position.
If you look at what happened the year before with Romo and Nance helped him along, and Romo was great this first year. He was an instant star, and for the Monday night games, if you look at the people who have done this Monday night in the past, they've been, premier broadcasters. And Tessitore was really good on college football. And he went from being the Southeast Conference Player of the Game of the Week to Monday Night Football. Big jump.
Huge jump. You got everybody's eyeball on you that night. Yeah, that's surprising. Because I've read.
But the man who makes the decisions on those things there said that he's going to give them another year basically said to see if they improve.
You know, if they need to improve, why don't they put them in another spot where they can improve off camera or into smaller markets where you not have every eyeball in the world on you? But in any case, we got a lot of point spreads to cover this weekend, so we might as well go there. As far as tonight, you mentioned, yeah, you were right. The North Carolina State opened a 2-point favorite at Pinnacle. Everybody now has Auburn favored by 1.5 or 2. So that market, that's changed. And they're ranked number 7 in the country, and they are now favored in the game. That's one of the big games for tonight, for sure.
I'll tell you another interesting game, Virginia and South Carolina. Frank Martin's done a good job again with that South Carolina team. He's brought them along. And Virginia, of course, they're very well coached, and they're a good defensive team, and they're among the top-ranked teams this year. That'll be a good game, too.
Yeah.
So there's no shortage of great activity as far as college basketball is concerned. I'll tell you, a team that's been playing well. Denver last night, they beat Dallas in a high-scoring game. I thought that game would be high-scoring. The over was a cinch there. And as far as bowl games go tonight, you've got Ohio against San Diego State, and then as the week goes on, you got Saturday, Memphis, Wake Forest will be a decent game. And Georgia Tech, Minnesota is a decent game. California, TCU is an interesting game. That's a pick-em situation. And Vanderbilt, Baylor. Those are all nice matchups. And then you get closer to New Year's, Auburn, Purdue, West Virginia, Syracuse, and Washington State, Iowa State. Those are probably the best teams to look forward to. But the NFL has got who's going to want to play and who's not, and you've got who needs it and who doesn't. And starting with Saturday and the Chargers-Baltimore game.
Yeah, that's a big one right there. The Chargers are a 4.5-point favorite in that game. Total 44.5 as well. So the Washington-Tennessee game, of course, it's meaningful to Tennessee. Washington just wants to save their season, maybe. Just put up, they're all playing for their jobs, of course. But Tennessee has a shot to get into the playoffs. And then Sunday, you got some monster games. I mean, I'll start down at the bottom, Pittsburgh, New Orleans. That's a huge, very big game for Pittsburgh, especially. For New Orleans, for positioning. And Pittsburgh, they want to make sure they get in. 8-5-1 on the season, and they got Baltimore running up.
Well, if Baltimore can beat the Chargers, that puts a lot of pressure on Pittsburgh, because Baltimore, if Pittsburgh loses, to catch them, I think they're only half a game behind them.
That's right. If Baltimore wins that game, the pressure is really on Pittsburgh to perform, and they haven't done all that well on the road this year. But and New Orleans is a tough place to play. However, they have backed down a lot too this year. After peaking early as an offensive team, now they're running the ball more and playing good defense. Another game this
Well, they're not only running the ball more, but they're not passing the ball well. Reed has not performed up to stuff. His last 4 games, he's averaging 162 yards per game. That's in his last 4 games, one of which was at home. Now, the last 3 games they played were on the road, but they had played well on the road previously. But 162 yards a game for their passing game is way subpar. They're dropping a lot of passes, and their receivers are not getting separation. And I noticed that last week he did not throw the ball to his running backs very much, which he may have to start doing a little more of. but they dropped a lot of balls on him, and he's been getting pressure. His offensive line is not doing a good job of protecting him in particular. So, this is an area where actually Pittsburgh is pretty good at getting to the passer. But Pittsburgh's offense is going up against one of the top 5 defenses in the league. Connor is back for Pittsburgh, but the Saints are among the top couple of teams in run defense. So I think, you may find a big defensive struggle going on down there, which a few weeks ago you wouldn't have said that.
No, you definitely wouldn't have. There are quite a few people that like the under in that game, 53.5. But there's quite a few people see this as being a little bit more of a defensive battle than what you might have expected earlier in the season. Got another game that's very meaningful as well. That's the 5:20 game at night. It's a night game, Sunday night game. That's Kansas City at Seattle. And Kansas City's the favorite in the game. Of course, they're 11-3 on the season. They're favored by 2.5. I haven't seen any threes, but 2.5 in that game at Seattle. Seattle's going to run the ball quite a bit. I mean, they're very good at that. And surprisingly, they lost to San Francisco last week, which put them in a situation where they need to be a little careful about. They got to win a game. And they're 8-6 on the season. Kansas City's 11-3. There has been a fall off for Kansas City after losing Kareem Hunt. They haven't been as explosive. Of course, their defense is absolutely horrible. But
their point spread record has not been good over the last 7 weeks, to be honest.
True.
But they still have been doing enough to win most games. And I'll tell you, for fantasy players out there, watch the Kansas City tight end in this game because the 2 linebackers are out for Seattle. And that's going to hurt them because that's the strength of their defense, or that's 2/3 of the strength of their defense. And so that tight end could have a field day for Kansas City. And that could give them kind of an edge in the game. But Seattle is coming off a game where they gave up. You saw what the tight ends did to Seattle for San Francisco last week against Seattle. This guy's as good as there is in the business coming in there. And the Seahawks, Russell Wilson has been a little off his game the last couple of weeks. And but Kansas City's defense, although they got their safety back, they got a good pass rush. They can get to the passer. That they can do. So that'll be the matchup there. I think right now you've got Indianapolis playing the Giants. Indianapolis is a big number over the Giants, who have their last 4 games on the road. The Giants have played very well. Excuse me, but and then there's the New England Buffalo game. Let me tell you about Buffalo. Buffalo is the number 2 defense in the league right now.
Wow. That's an amazing stat. 13-point underdog in that game.
Well, New England hasn't exactly been gangbusters lately. And the last time they played Buffalo, New England didn't score until there were 10 minutes left in the game. So Buffalo's defense did a decent job against them. And I think one of their scores was on an interception. So this is this time of year, playing in what could be weather. Buffalo could play them tough.
Yeah, and you got New England coming off 2 losses, which is really unusual going back in their history. Of course, times change, and as we've said many times before, Father Time is undefeated. And the Patriots are not looking quite as sharp as they once in our history have. That's for certain. Um, so, weather-wise, I don't see any.
I'll tell you, we left out a really good game, and that's Houston, Philadelphia.
Very big game. Yes. Yeah, that's a very big game. There are some great
Important game. It's an important game for Houston and for Philadelphia, who's still alive actually. And now that they've got the backup quarterback in there, and Jeffrey had a huge game last week, 6 catches for 180 yards, and that's the element that this quarterback gives Philadelphia that Wentz did not. Wentz was constantly throwing to his tight end and checking down and throwing underneath, whereas this quarterback has the courage to throw the ball downfield.
Yeah, if you don't put him on his back, he has enough time to do it, and he can be very accurate as well. Yeah, that game opened a pick, and right now, Philadelphia is a 2.5-point favorite. So the money has moved and definitely in Philadelphia's favor. Here's a game. Chicago won their division. They celebrated that last week. They're a 4-point favorite on the road at San Francisco, which is not a very, 4-10 team. But at home, they pulled off a couple of upsets. They beat Denver and they beat Seattle. And Chicago is coming off the big win over Green Bay, winning their division. You wonder if the focus is going to be there. You think it would be, but you never know with stuff like that. And so it's you got a 10-4 team against a 4-10 team, and only a 4-point favorite.
Chicago still has something to play for, and that is, their record, their overall record, getting. I think they have. There is a way, if things go well this week, where they could wind up with an ability to play at home, and they win the division, and they're so far they're in the playoff round. But if things fall their way, they could wind up with a bye.
There's a game on Monday night. I'm not sure anybody's going to watch this game, but Denver at Oakland. You got a 3-11 team at home. Their last game in Oakland. Next year they don't have a home. Not as yet, anyway. And Denver has had a terrible season. Probably end up firing their coach. And Denver's a 2.5-point favorite at Oakland. That's the Monday night football game on December 24th, which happens to be Christmas Eve, of course.
Yeah, it's Christmas Eve. I'm taking my sister out to dinner, and I'm taking a night off from Monday Night Football and those announcers.
And I think a lot of people will. That's a tough way to end the season.
That could be an all-time low for Monday Night Football ratings.
Very well could be.
And it'll make them perhaps wake up to the fact that they got a problem.
Yeah, they got 2 strikes against them right off the bat, being Christmas Eve. That's number one. That's going to be tough to overcome. And that definitely could be a record. Anything else you want to talk about today, Hank, or before we sign off?
Yesterday was Al Michaels' wife's birthday. Oh. Happy birthday to her. She's a wonderful lady.
Happy birthday.
And outside of that, not really. I think, between the bowls, the nightly schedule of bowl games is something to do. And now you got college basketball going on now. A lot happening. So, but it's this will be a good week of college of NFL football, and looking for somebody to pull an upset this week. And I think the teams that have the best chance for an upset right now is probably Buffalo, perhaps the Giants because of their good road record and the fact that their defense is pretty decent. Looking at the rest of the card, I guess San Francisco, there'll be money for San Francisco. They've suddenly become a public team.
Yeah, you got a undrafted.
And by the way, New Orleans is a fairly sizable number over Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think they're 5.5 now, and that could be your upset also, because things have changed there. And you got Seattle. They're a dog at home against Kansas City, so there's a possibility there as well, because that's a tough place to play. You do have some upset potential. Hank, your picks and my picks are up at JimFeist.com. Anybody out there want to have a winning weekend, go there, check it out. We've got some good stuff there. And Hank,
by the way, Minnesota, we talked about that last week. And remember, I told you that Minnesota, I was wrong about the under, but everybody is now reporting about how the coach wants to run the ball more. And they did run the ball 40 times last week. So my information was on the money, but my analysis wasn't as far as I thought that game would go under. But they are going to be a running team from now on. And they had over 200 yards rushing last week. And they're going to run the ball against Detroit as much as they can. And, Cook ran for 136 yards. And aside from him, they had almost another 100 yards rushing. So Minnesota going into the postseason could have altered their game away to take pressure off the quarterback.
That's a smart move. Obviously worked out, and it'll probably work out the rest of the way. Of course, they're fighting for a wild card, which is what they need to do. So they have a lot of pressure on them to win. Detroit has not been very good this year in any phase of the game. Home, away, got a new coach there. It's really not worked out all that well. Minnesota's a pretty sizable favorite in there. It opened 4.5, and it's only up to 5.5, actually. I would have thought that would have been more, because Detroit has not been all that much. But then again, you look at their two records. Minnesota's 7-6-1, and Detroit is 5-9. And say, well, they're not that far apart. But this Minnesota team. If you catch lightning in a bottle, and that might be the case with them, they change their modus operandi and they run the ball. They're going to control the clock, keep Cousins off his back, standing up, and they scored a lot of points that way because you mentioned it the other day. They only threw the ball 21 times, but they were very effective in doing it. So
and they ran the ball 40 times.
But
the other thing with Detroit is they only have one healthy wide receiver right now. So they've got problems in that area. Their offensive line is missing a bunch of starters. So, against that Minnesota defense, I think they're going to have big-time problems. And defensively, their secondary is not very good. They've got a number of issues on that team right now, and I think they've probably packed it in. The quarterback has only thrown 3 touchdown passes in his last 4 games.
Wow. Yeah, he's a very high-priced guy, new head coach, everything. Now, things are not working out well for Detroit right now, that's for sure. Hank, thank you very much for today. We'll talk to you again on Friday.
All right, Jim.
Thank you.
Have a good couple of days.
You too, bud.